Prepping and packing for a long motorcycle trip, part 1. This will be a 3-part series, the first of which we'll talk about things I thought were important to get the motorcycle ready for the trip. On the second 2, we'll talk about packing and then some gadgets that I think are important and some essential things. We're also going to be talking about some fails along the way, things I tried that really did not work. So join me, and if you're getting ready to take a long bike ride, I'd love to hear your feedback on what I'm sharing here and any ideas you have that you could add to or things you'd like to correct me on. I had a 14-day motorcycle trip coming up here, and so these are things I tried. There's some big fails along the way, some successes. This is Blue Max, my Harley Ultra Limited, fully packed and ready to go. And then this is my buddy's bike, Dale. He's riding Old Blue, which is a Harley Ultra Classic, and he's ready to go. Now Dale's going to ride with me for 7 days out of my 14-day journey, so he's packing for a shorter trip than I am, and I'll share a little bit about the differences between the way that we pack the two bikes. Both of us have a lot of time on bikes. In fact, Dale's got over 100,000 miles on Old Blue, and I've been riding off and on for 55 years. So we've got a lot of time on the road and learned a little bit, but every trip we learn something new, and we love to share with each other some new ideas. We tried a few of those out on this trip, and that's what I'll be sharing with you. Now, each one of us travels solo often, but it's really handy to be traveling with at least one other person because you got somebody that keeps eyes on you. Both Dale and I would alternate to give each other a different shot up front and in the rear, but also to keep an eye on each other's bikes. And twice we did a pullover for a gear check. Once there was a strap blown on his, and once there was a strap blown on mine. And neither time was it really anything that needed to be addressed, but it's good to have somebody keep an eye on that and make sure you don't have any troubles on there. And so as we get going, we tried some new ideas on this trip. Both of us did. I had some extra gadgets and packed a little bit differently. And first thing I did here, and I'm going to talk about equipping the bike specifically, was I added some new gadgets and did a little bit of modification of my electric circuitry. Now, it seems like every new gadget that you add requires electric power, and that can add up and make a pretty big demand on your electric system. So I'm always aware of the capability of my stator and the charging capacity of that and what kind of a load I've got on the bike. And so one of the first things I added for this particular trip was some ways to connect electrical devices. I like using plugs rather than stacking cables on top of a battery that's really hard to get to in the first place. And the little battery tender connecting seems like a great place to do that. So I added a few wires and jacks and connections that would plug into the battery tender. I've got some pigtails that have little cigarette type lighter plug, female plug. I've got some extension cables in there. I've got some that have little jumper cables connected to it. I've got some that have little terminal cables, so you could add them onto the battery if need be. So these can be permanent or temporary. You can add and remove. Also have a USB charger. It's a fast charger with 4 different outlets on there for every kind of USB connection. And so I wired those in there and added those in, and that really added a lot of capability. For me, a big deal on the road is visibility. I want to see, but almost more importantly, I want to be seen. A lot of accidents that involve motorcyclists come because the driver does not see the motorcyclist. So I want high visibility for my own safety. I want in the front and the rear. And for this trip, I decided to add some fog lights for kind of a little lower light to add a larger sphere of lighting on my bike. Looking around, I found a really great deal. I found a pair of billet aluminum fog lights, 12-volt fog lights that would mount on my front spill bars there, and got them for $16. Had to do the wiring myself, which was not a big deal. And so I went ahead and I outfitted those. I wired them into my bike, and I added a fuse block that I'll show you later to isolate these. So they come with a fuse, but I wanted to make sure that I'm not stacking all these different wires directly on the battery terminal. Wanted to do something similar in the back of the bike, and again, I looked around. There's some filler lights you can put in between the saddlebag and fender that add a lot of extra visibility, and I like those, but the ones I looked at, commercial brand names, tended to run around $200 to $375, and I just didn't want to spend that kind of money again. So I did a lot of hunting, and I found a pair of LEDs for $3 that were perfect for my needs. Now, again, I had to add my own wiring and find a way to fix them, but I did. I went ahead and wired those into my system where I have running lights and turn signal connected to it. So they're on all the time, but then they also flash when the turn signals are turned on. Another thing that I've done with regard to lighting is to add some undercarriage accent lights. Honestly, I did that just because I wanted some color, but I came to understand that it really helps me become visible from a further distance at nighttime and from the side. You'll see I prefer the blue lights. Obviously, that's not legal in all states. So as I'm traveling, I leave them on blue where it's legal. I'll switch them to purple or some other color that's allowed in the particular state I'm riding through. I always ride with those lights turned on. They're on a separate isolated waterproof switch so I can control them. Also have on my belt loop a remote control that allows me to change the color and the pattern that can flash or whatever it needs to be. The thing I like best about this set of undercarriage lights, when I pull the brake, I've got them tapped into my brake line, they all turn red, and that just enhances the visibility from behind then, which I'm obviously very concerned about. Let me take a quick moment to mention I'm very careful about the extra load I put on my electric system. I replaced all my incandescent bulbs that came with the factory stock bike with LEDs. That draws less current, but I also take a look at my stator capacity and I make certain that I don't overload my electric system. I mentioned that I added some extra fuse wiring in there, and I'd like to show you what I ended up doing here. I wanted to isolate all of my accessories from the battery so I could turn them off to keep from drawing the battery down. And I do keep it on the battery tender, but still I didn't want to draw it down. I also wanted to be able to, for other reasons, turn them off independently. So I installed a fuse block where I can have 6 different 12-volt power devices connected with just a single pair of wires going to the battery. And then I took that entire fuse block and hooked it up to a relay. What this does is it isolates the power from the battery by the relay, which again gives me separation, so I'm not drawing it down, but it also, when I start things up, keeps that surge from causing problems. Every line is properly fused, and I put the fuse block on top of my ACM underneath my seat, and that fit well, and the circuits work great. I've got a waterproof switch that I stuck underneath my heat shield, and so that's my master switch for turning the fuse block on. That in turn gives me power to my other independent items. I've got a Zero cell phone holder that has a wireless charging hooked up to that, and I've got a Bluetooth device, several other things that are on the circuit in addition to all my LED lighting. And so now I've got it all isolated. Every independent line is fused, so I've got protection from fire, and I'm able to put different size fuses for the particular load to make sure that I'm not overloading any particular line in there. So anyhow, that's turned out to be a really big plus in there, and something I'm pretty happy with. Now, when it comes to setting the bike up a little bit differently for the road, I have added a backrest on there, and that's absolutely indispensable. It does fold forward, so you can move it out of the way, and obviously it removes pretty easily, and I like that, but that's been a real big plus. Another thing is the addition of some saddlebag inserts. I've got on the lid of my tour pack a insert that's got a lot of different pockets, some zipper, some are a little Velcro, and that's been really, really handy for keeping small items that I want to have easily accessible. I'll keep a pair of rubber gloves in there for doing mechanical work. I've got a little hand cleaner in there. I've got tire pressure gauge, little first aid kit, hand mirror, Kleenex in there. I've got electrolyte powder inside there. I've got extra USB cables and USB adapters. I'll keep in the saddlebag lid inserts. I'll also keep some little gum, snacks like that, but things that I might want to grab real quick, I'll put some extra microfiber rags in there, little containers, spray containers of cleaner. Keep Rain-X. I bring Rain-X with me for plastic that I use on my visor and also on my windshield. And then I've got some protectant that I'll use after I clean the bike that I'll put on to protect the paint, and it makes the bugs and everything come off much more quickly. So those are things that I found really handy for storage. Now, also in equipping and setting up the bike, you've got to have some way to maintain it on the road, and so I picked up some things that I've never had before that you might be surprised I never traveled with. One of these is a tire patch kit. I wanted to make sure that I did account for that. I have AAA, which actually the version I have will tow a motorcycle, believe it or not. So I wanted to make sure I had a tire patch kit, and there are hundreds out there. Most of them are very inexpensive. This was $19 for a very nice kit that has a zippered case. It's got 2 sets of tools for reaming and inserting the plugs, reaming out the holes. It's got a snips, it's got pliers in there, and a variety of different plugs and patches. So more than I'd ever need, but it's enough to help other riders when you're on the road traveling with a group. Another thing that I added, which you might be surprised I didn't have, was a cordless tire air pump. And this one I picked up. I love it. It is such a delight. It does so many things. It has a built-in battery bank. It holds enough charge to inflate several tires, including vehicle tires, by the way, large ones. Car and truck tires. It very quickly will inflate a motorcycle tire, usually in less than a minute. It's very, very quiet, and it has a lot of different adapters for different types of tires, and even inflate sports equipment, balls, that sort of thing. So it's very, very nice. When it comes to power, there's a adapter that'll fit in a cigarette lighter, so you can power it from a 12-volt cigarette lighter. You can recharge it that way. It also will recharge by USB, and it will work as a battery bank for USB devices. And it also has a flashlight built in. So this is kind of an all-in-one little device, and it's small, compact, and best of all, it was just $34. So I love this, absolutely love it. And that's now become part of my permanent gear that I travel with. I mentioned that I also carried little spray bottles of cleaner and Rain-X. One of the other things I carry, I keep this in my front lower fairing, is a pair of reader glasses. I have other readers, but these are an extra set for at night. I keep an extra little flashlight up there, really bright LED light that's rechargeable. And I keep a little notepad. Generally have that on me, and that's just for making notes, places I like, meals I like, things I want to remember, people's names, phone numbers, that sort of thing. I don't want to take time to put in my cell phone. And so I keep that handy. I got that from Christian Motorcycle Association. I'm a member there. And nice little leather notebook that I just absolutely love. It's got refillable inserts. So that's been a real positive addition. Speaking of flashlights, I've got a much bigger and much more powerful flashlight that I keep for emergencies. It's also rechargeable, but this rascal will light up the countryside. And it comes with a couple different features for safety. It has a couple lenses you can insert. One is red, one is blue, to try to attract attention if you're in trouble off the side of the road or anywhere for that matter. It has a built-in SOS flash and several other flashing patterns. And the lens will focus very tight beam or very wide beam, so you can keep it on a particular part if you're looking for that, or like I said, it'll light the whole countryside up. Comes with a really nice case, and I keep that in my tour pack. So that's some of the things that I really love. A feature that I really never even dreamed of bringing, I got as a result of some free samples from Amazon, and that's these Dude Shower and Dude Wipe packs. They've got an internal little flap and seal, so they stay sealed up and moist. And the obvious application is personal hygiene. You've been on a long trip, you want to freshen up a bit before you have a meal or meet with people. The Dude Shower has soap on there, and the Dude Wipes, good for your hands and that. What I wanted to see is, could I use these to clean my bike? So when I had a particularly buggy ride, instead of bringing out my spray cleaner and little microfiber cloth, I brought out one of these Dude Wipes. I was absolutely blown away. This little rascal, one Dude Shower actually cloth, cleaned all the bugs very easily, surprisingly easy, off my windshield, off of my fairing, my lowers, off of my headlights, my running lights, my turn signal, my fog light. Same sheet now. Brought it to the back, cleaned my fender, my tail light, my turn signals, all my auxiliary lights on the saddlebags and the filler. And I probably still had more life left, and it was pretty dirty by then. But I was amazed. I'd compare that to Bug Slide or any of the other nice cleaners that are out there. And for a pack of those, they're inexpensive. They don't leak. You can toss them anywhere. I keep them in my saddlebag. And the Dude Wipes were great for keeping my hands clean when I did a little tire check or any kind of little things, even filling up with gasoline. So those are going to be a permanent part of my kit. I was pleasantly surprised. And again, Bug Slide, I want to say, is around $16 for a bottle. Not a big bottle for that matter. Yeah, I think it's like $50 for a gallon, maybe 60, I don't know. But these, the bang for the buck, I'm pretty impressed with these things. Well, thanks for joining me for this, and I hope you got some ideas from it. And I'd very much like to hear what you have to say. What you think is great? What do you think could be improved? What do you think is absolutely ridiculous? And in particular, I'd love to hear your ideas, things that you've tried that work, things you might think you could improve on that I've suggested or talked about, or any questions you might have. Be sure to comment below. Also, click on subscribe. Got 2 more videos coming up in this series. Now, the second one is going to be more detail on how I packed and what I brought, what I thought was essential for a 4,000-mile trip, 14-day journey. I'll be telling you about some things that did not work, big fails, things I brought along that were absolutely ridiculous and unused, and others that just did not fit the need. And finally, I'm going to be telling you about some gear, things that I really thought gadgets and so forth would enhance. Talked about a few we added to the bike. I've got even more that I brought along or added to the bike prior to this journey that I'd like to share with you, just some ideas. And again, your feedback is really, really important. I get a lot of neat ideas from you folks. So hit the subscribe, hit the bell there so you get the notification about the upcoming 2 videos, and we'll see you later. Thanks for being part of this. God bless.